Shalom, shalom, dear friends. This is Yehudah Glick from the Shalom Jerusalem Foundation, talking to you from Jerusalem. We are continuing our study in the book of Exodus. And we are continuing the study in the story of Moses and the burning bush. Last time, we read the verses and we saw that God called upon Moses, and Moses says, his first reaction was, Hineni, here I am, I'm ready to serve you. But then we saw that Moses took a step back. First he says to Hashem, who am I? Who am I? I can't, I'm not the person. And this modesty, God says to him, I'll be with you. God told him, you're not going by yourself. You're going to be my long hand. You're going to be my emissary of taking the people of Israel out of Egypt, because you are the person who cannot ignore suffering. When you see suffering, you can't ignore it, as you showed in the story we saw in chapter 2 of the book of Exodus. And Moses said, I will be with you. And you look at that tree that's burning is the symbol that I am with you. That the fire cannot burn a tree if I protect that tree. So today we're going to go on and continue and see the dialogue, which we spoke about last time. I spoke about Moses asking God, who you are, what's your name, what is your identity? And God said two major answers. First he said, I am who I am, I will be who I will be. Something that can't be explained in human words. But then he says to him, but you want to know my identity? You want to know how the people of Israel will refer to me? I am the God of their patriarchs, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. This is my name, and this is how I will be memorized forever and ever. And that is where we reached last time. We reached the book of Exodus, chapter 3, verse 16. So today we're going to continue. We're going to learn about the special miracles that God gave to Moses as symbols, as signs that he will show to the people of Israel and they'll show to Egypt. And but maybe before I continue on, we'll try to really see that though Moses first started off saying, Hineni, here I am, but slowly he was saying to Hashem, I'm not sure I'm the right person. I want to be sure that you're with us. And I want to know how I can do this thing the best way. Because Moses says to him, look, if I come to the people of Israel, chapter 4, verse 1, Moses said, when I come to the people of Israel, they don't believe me. And they'll say, God didn't reveal himself to you. How am I going to convince them? Moses wants to be sure that he does the mission on the right part, on the right side, that his mission will be successful. Moses says, Hineni, here I am, but he wants to be sure that it's going to work. That in spite of the fact, afterwards we'll see, in spite of the fact that he's not the best speaker. And he wants to be sure that he does the mission right. So he's asking Hashem, be with me and give me the persuasiveness, give me the understanding, and that I'll really be able to do it right. And then God comes over to him and says to him a few things. First of all, we're in verse 15, God says to him, go and gather the elderly of the people of Israel and tell them, as I told you, Adonai, YHWH, God's name, he reveals to him and says to him, tell them that you're the God of your fathers. You're not just beginning here. You have a past. You have a history. You have a family. You have the patriarchs. You're part of a nation. You're part of one collective family. And God told me to come take you out of Egypt. And he tells him, when you tell the people of Israel, tell them I'm going to bring you to the land. I'm bringing you to the land. That's what you should tell the people of Israel. But when you go to Pharaoh, him you tell something else. Him you tell that you want to go out for 3 days in the desert and worship God. This is something that Pharaoh could understand, because even he as a believer in so many gods, they would serve their God by feeding. They would serve the gods by feeding them. So this is something he can understand. But he tells Moses, don't worry, I know that Pharaoh will not really understand what we're talking about. And we're going to have to explain it to him the way we're going to explain it to you. And I want you to know God. What God says to Moses. Eventually, you will be going out, and the women and the children will take with them clothes and jewelry. What is this coming to say? It's coming to say that we're not going to be redeemed from Egypt as people that are running away. We're going to be receiving our freedom as free people. When a person goes out with clothing and jewelry, he goes out as a free person, as a person who is not a slave running away, who is not somebody who's a poor person, a homeless person. He's coming out with dignity. He's coming out with honor. He's coming out as a human being who has an identity. Yes, and there we are in chapter 4, verse 1. Moses says, and they're not going to believe me. They're going to say to me that God didn't reveal himself to you. And God says, first thing, what do you have in your hand? Maza biyadicha. He says, it's a staff. He says, throw it to the ground. He throws it to the ground. It becomes a snake. And Moses runs away. And God says to him, send your hand, hold it by its tail. Moses holds on to the staff, and it becomes back a staff. Then he says, put your hand under your arm, and he pulls it out. It's white with leprosy. He says, put it back in there. He takes it out, and it becomes back healthy. These are the first two signs, miracles that God gives Moses. What's he showing to him here? What is he showing to him here? Well, what are the two things? First, he said, take the staff and throw it to the ground, and it becomes a snake. And secondly, take your hand, and it becomes with leprosy. But it's not only the one way, that not only the staff becoming a snake, the snake becoming back a tree, a staff, and not only the hand becoming with leprosy, but also healing. What do we see? Basically, we first see that God says to Moses, situations are reversible. If you have a staff that's a snake, it doesn't have to remain that way. The fact that the people of Israel are right now slaves in Egypt, you have to understand that when I am with you, when God is here involved in the story, things are not permanent. They can change. They are reversible. This is the first message. A staff that becomes a snake can once again become a staff. A hand that is with leprosy can once again become healthy. So if the people of Egypt are right now, the people of Israel right now in Egypt as slaves, it doesn't have to remain that way. It can change. And this is the first thing you have to understand. The situation can change. But not only that. He's telling to Moses that their situation right now is not their natural situation. They're like a staff that was thrown down to the ground and it became a snake. That's not their natural situation. They're like the hand that was put under the arm and is now ill. They can be healed. Their situation right now is like a staff that was thrown to the ground, like a hand that was ill. This is not their natural situation. I will bring them back to what they really are. The descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The people that have a destiny to go to the land that I promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is the first message. Their situation is reversible. Their situation right now is not their natural situation. These are the first two messages that Moses has to understand. And then we have to understand what else. God takes Moses' staff. What is his staff? The stick that he held in his hand to show that he's the guide. When he was guiding the sheep in the desert, he was the leader. He was their shepherd. That staff is what God is going to give Moses to now to lead the people of Israel as their shepherd. But he also has to understand. That this staff can overcome the snake, the symbol of Pharaoh. The people of Israel, who are the leadership of the world, can become under the hands of Pharaoh, but, and here's what God tells him. He tells them, hold on, that snake, not where you usually hold a snake. When you pick up a snake, usually you have to hold it by the head. No, you go pick it up by the tail. Because if I'm here with you, even picking up by the tail will be okay. Moses, who first saw the snake and ran away from it. Moses, who ran away once from Pharaoh. He already ran away from the snake. Has to get up and go back and be able to understand that he can pick up Pharaoh from the bottom. Pick him up from the tail. Pick him up. And then what does Moses say? What's the word he uses? Vayachazek bo. He sends his hands and he holds it. The word chazak in Hebrew means strong. And God is going to be taking the people out of Israel from the yad chazakah with a strong hand. So here Moses already is becoming the hand of God. The strongness of the hand of God. The strong hand. Chazak. He's picking up the God of Egypt, the snake. The snake that right now is taking over the people of Israel, that were originally a staff leadership, are now on the ground. They have to be picked up. They have to be picked up, and in order to pick them up, you have to be willing to go pick up Pharaoh from the bottom. But also, your hand itself has to be healed. Your hand itself, which you're holding close to yourself, you have to bring it out as a guide, as a leader, as somebody who's taking upon himself the oath to raise your hand. Put it in here, but remove it from there and take upon yourself leadership. It's not easy for Moses. Moses said, who am I? Who are you? What is the mission? How are they going to believe me? Moses has to be reinforced. He has to be reinforced to understand that the situation is reversible, that the people of Israel are not in their healthy situation, but that he is now in the hand of God. He is the staff of God, as a shepherd, as a leader. And he has to take out his hands healthily and raise them up and be able to take upon himself the mission of being the shepherd of the children of God. This is what he's getting right now. This is the appointment of Moses to become the leader of the people of Israel. So as I said, we spoke before about the readiness of Moses, the willingness, but he wanted to be sure he understands the mission, to understand who is sending him, what is God's name, and from there on, to now God is putting upon him the appointment, the destiny, the revelation as part of him, not as a staff that's not part of him, but his hand himself. Moses himself will be right now, from now on, representing the God of Israel, the God of the patriarchs Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God who says, I am who I am, and I will be who I will be. And he tells the people of Israel, you have a destiny. But he talks to Pharaoh and says, let them go out and worship their God. Let them go out and bring them an offering for their God. The whole plan is planned out in this moment, from that fire that doesn't go out on the bush. That burning fire that Moses is going to have to be part of right now. That burning fire where Moses is going to have to take off his shoes and understand that now he's not standing on his own. He's part of this wonderful godly phenomenon. He is part of that wonderful phenomenon. He's taking the fire of God inside himself. The fire of God that doesn't burn other things. But the fire of God, the fire of the assignment of serving God. And this is where Moses is going. And this is what the Torah is teaching us till this very day. When we take upon ourselves an assignment that God has appointed us to do. To take the readiness, to take the burn in the heart, to be ready to serve God with our full fire. To understand that we want to become part of the mission, and the mission become part of ourselves. We want to guide, we want to lead, we want to fulfill the assignment completely. We want to understand where we're going. And we want to do it for the sake of the one and only God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So dear friends, shalom to you all from Jerusalem, the city chosen by God. This is Yehudah Glick from the Shalom Jerusalem Foundation, and we are involved in serving God, in bringing the message of Jerusalem, of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to the world, but also taking upon ourselves the mission of taking care of the children of God, the orphans, the orphan families, the widows and the widowers. Partner with us, share this study with others, and join us at shalomjerusalem.org, at amitsim.com, and be part of this mission to serve God, to lead the world, to follow the one and only God. I love you all so much. Shalom from Jerusalem.